Hello, grade 7 students. Today we're talking about poetry. We're going to look at a poem by Emily Dickinson. It's an interesting poem because it's kind of written in a form of a riddle. Okay, it's called I Like to See It Lap the Miles. I like to see it lap the miles and lick the valleys up, and stop to feed itself at tanks and then prodigious step around a pile of mountains and supercilious peer in shanties by the sides of roads and then a quarry pier to fix its sides and crawl between, complaining all the while in horrid hooting stanza, then chase itself downhill, and neigh like Boanerges, then punctual as a star, stop, docile and omnipotent, at its own stable door. As we can see, I highlighted some words here. It's like a clue of what she's talking about. So she's talking about a horse, neigh, stable, lap the miles. But no, she's actually talking about trains. In her time, they just invented trains, so that's why they called it iron horses. It was new, it was different than what they used to, but so she had to compare between the strength and the speed of the horse to the speed and the power of the train. Let's see. I like to see it lap the miles and lick the valleys up and stop to feed itself at tanks and then produce step. In the first stanza, she admires the speed and stamina of that creature, as we thought at first she was talking about a creature. But then the train is not a creature, but she said that it's eager to eat up. And she used the word lick over here. That's a personification. Now, as I said last session, personification is when you give non-human a human quality. So, of course, the train doesn't have a tongue to lick anything. Okay, and then it stopped to feed itself at tanks. Why did she use the word tanks? Tanks because at that time, trains were powered by steam. So, of course, between in every station, it has to stop and fill their tanks with water. Okay, that's the first stanza. In the next stanza, around a pile of mountains and supercilious pier, the train goes on around mountains. This shows how large the thing that requires like tanks and food, and it can go around mountains with that speed. And she used personification in the next, like to feed its sides and crawl between, complaining all the while in horrid hooting stanza. She gives more personality to the train when she said it's going through rock. Here, it goes through rock effortless. A quarry is a place where you dig out rocks. Now, she compared how the train goes through the tunnel, like between the rocks, effortlessly as a knife cutting an apple. So, this is like a personification and a metaphor at the same time. So, it makes loud noise. So, it's a crowd between complaining as a while. So, when the train going through, of course, we all know the sound of the train. She said it makes loud noise as it moves. And complaining over here is also a personification. Because trains don't complain and they don't have a tongue or a head or a brain to complain. And here, she used the word stanza. Although we were talking about that noise the train is making, she wants to make the horrible sounds coming from this thing like rhythmic. She makes us think, when we read the word stanza, she makes us think about poems and poetry and rhyming words and rhythm. Okay. And then she said over here, chase itself downhill. We can't help but picture a cute little puppy chasing its tail, right? So it's also like a riddle. What can chase itself? What do you think can chase itself? Of course, the answer would be a train made up of multiple cars, each one following the engine down the hill. So, and neigh like Boanerges. So, neigh is a sound of a horse. Now we return to compare between the strength and the power and the movement of the train to the horse. So, Bonerges are like the son of thunder. Those are like the people who are giving public speeches. So she compares the sound, that's a metaphor. She compares the sound of the train to a really loud sound of the thunder. And then she used stop, docile, and omnipotent there. Then prompter than a star. Okay. It's supposed to be prompted as a star. I'm sorry, this one is written by mistake. We can just change it like that. Do it like that. Okay. Use a pen. And we're gonna write as a star. So of course this is something called simile. I just want to explain simile. Simile is when you compare two things. It's like the metaphor, but the difference between simile and metaphor that you use the word as or like. Now, prompter as a star, stars, the thing about stars that they show up at a specific time each night in the same exact place. So she said that the train is punctual and accurate as a star. Of course, that's the time when the train comes to the station. Okay, stop, docile and omnipotent. Docile means it's like obedient and it's waiting for the order. And omnipotent means it has a great power. So, of course, the train it finally stops at the station, and it's like an obedient creature that's waiting for an order, and it has a great power the moment you ask the train to start moving at its own stable door. And that is the poetry we're going to take today. I hope you understood everything of it. We took simile, we had personification, we had metaphor, and Emily wrote a lot of poems, but she actually didn't put titles for them. That's why the first line of this poem is the same title of the poem, because that was published after she died. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye.